Hi all, welcome to i-tutor Academy. In today's session, we will start with the Unit 11 of MMPC 010 and that is pricing under perfect competition and pure monopoly. So objective of this chapters are, after going through this unit, you should be able to describe the characteristics of pure perfect competition and pure monopoly, identify the equilibrium condition for a fame and the industry in the perfectly competitive situation, and examine price out decision under the pure monopoly, analyze the relevance of pure perfect competition and pure monopoly. Structures are: introduction, characteristics of perfect competition, profit maximizing output in the short run, profit maximizing output in the long run, characteristics of monopoly, profit maximizing output of a monopoly, fame, welfare, perfect competition versus monopoly, and implications of perfect competition and monopoly for managerial decision making, summary, keyword section, and self assessment questions also in this unit. So let's begin with the introduction part. In the preceding unit, you have been introduced to the concept of market structure and the impact it has on the competitive behavior of a firm. You must have noted that the number and size of the firm is an important determinant of the structure of the industry and or market. And in this unit, we shall analyze the behavior of a firm under two different market structure, namely pure perfect competition and monopoly. The crucial parameter is the size of the constituent firm in relation to the total industry's output. Throughout this unit, we go by the assumption that the firms are guided by profit maximization. And next is characteristics of perfect competition. What are the characteristics? So first one is there are a large number of independent, relatively small seller and buyers as compared to the market as whole, and that is why none of them is capable of influencing the market price. Further, buyers or sellers should not have any kind of association or union to arrive at an understanding with regard to market demand, price or sale. And second characteristics is the product sold by different sellers are homogeneous and identical, and there should not be any differentiation of product by sellers and by way of quality, variety, color, design, packaging, or other selling conditions of the product. So that is from the point of view of buyer, the product of competing seller are completely substitutable, and there is absolutely no restriction on entry of new firms into the industry, and the existing firm are free to leave the industry. This ensures that even in the long run, the number of firms would continue to remain large and the relatively share of each firm would continue to remain insignificant. Both buyers and sellers in the market have perfect knowledge about the condition in which they are operating, and buyers know the pricing being charged by different competing sellers, and sellers know the price that different buyers are offering. And fifth is the distance between the location of competing seller is not significant, and therefore the price of a product is not affected by the cost of transportation of goods. Buyers do not have to incur noticeable transport cost if they want to switch over from one seller to another. So characteristics of perfect competition are summarized in table 11.1. So number and size of distribution of seller is many, small seller. No individual seller is able to exercise a significant influence over time. Number and size distribution of buyers is here, and product differentiation and condition of entry and exit. And as mentioned in the previous unit, it is difficult to find a market that satisfies all the textbook condition of perfect competition. There are markets that come close to fulfilling this stringent condition, but none that completely is in synchronization with all of them. You might well ask the rationale for studying this market structure if it does not exist in the real world, and the answer is that perfect competition is the ideal market and serves as a benchmark, and we can use the outcome of other market to compare with the outcome that would have been achieved under perfect competition. And for instance, if the market is competitive, prices would be lower and closer to cost, while if the market is monopolized, then prices are likely to be higher. Another useful comparison relate to the concept of consumer surplus. And intuitively, consumers surplus can be thought of as the difference between the maximum amount the consumer is willing to pay for a product and the amount he actually pays. Think about your purchase of a big ticket item such as a camera. You have price in mind that is the maximum you are willing to pay. The difference between this and the price actually paid is the consumer surplus. And in perfectly competitive market, consumer surplus is the maximum, while is monopoly market it is low. In fact, it is the endeavor of monopolies to capture as much of the consumer surplus as possible. When a perfectly competitive industry get monopolized, there is a transfer of surplus from the consumer to the producer, or stated differently, the producer is able to increase his surplus at the expense of the consumer. And on the other hand, when a monopolized industry become competitive, there is transfer from producers to the consumers, and consumers become better off when there is increased competition. An illustration of this can be gauged from the conduct of the automobile industry in India, since it was deregulated in 1991, and the consumer have benefited from competition in the sector, and one can definitely assert that producer margin or surplus have declined to the benefit of the consumer. Activity 1 is here from this subsection. Please try to do it. Next is profit maximizing output in the short run. So, having examined the rationale for studying perfectly competitive market, let us analyze the profit maximizing output of a profitable competitive firm in the short run. As you already know, the short run is defined as a period of time in which at least one input is fixed. Often, the firm's capital stock is viewed as a fixed input. Accordingly, this analysis assumes that the number of production facilities in the industry and the size of each facility do not change because the period being considered is too short to allow firm to enter or leave the industry or to make any changes in their operation. So, under perfect competition, since an individual firm cannot influence the market price by raising or lowering its output, the firm faces a horizontal demand curve. That is, the demand curve of any single firm is perfectly elastic. Its elasticity is equal to infinity at all level of output. And if a firm charges a price slightly higher than the prevailing market price, and demand for that firm will fall to zero because there are many other sellers selling exactly the same product. And on the other hand, if a firm reduces its price slightly, its demand will increase to infinity, and thus other firm will match the low price. And a firm under perfect competition is a price taker and not a price maker. And because an individual firm's demand or average revenue curve is horizontal under the perfect competition, and the marginal revenue curve of the firm is also horizontal, coincide with the AR curve. In other words, AR and MR are constant and equal at all levels of output. So you should satisfy yourself that if price is constant, marginal revenue will be equal to price. And the price output determination and the equilibrium of the firm under perfect competition may be explained through a numerical example. Suppose the demand and supply condition of a product are represented by the following equations. So this is the equations for the same. And figure 11.1 shows that when the market, so this is figure 11.1, that is profit maximizing equilibrium in the short run. So please refer from your study material, so it will more clear. Okay, so and also read this section for this figure, so it will the elaboration of that. So please use your study material. Okay, so this is the equation that is about the profit maximizing output in the short run. So other subsections of this unit we will discuss in next video, and for more MBA series you just do like, share and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.
i-tutor Academy presents IGNOUMBA Complete Syllabus Coverage Classes for individual students, semester-wise subject with online flexible timing. For more details, contact on +91 623 827 1885